One is foldable. One requires a fork. Which pizza is truly king? Last year, Americans ate over 3 billion pizzas. That's enough slices to give every person in the country about 46 pieces each. And yes, we definitely did our part in that research. Today, we're settling the debate that's torn families apart and ended friendships. New York's classic slice versus Chicago's deep dish masterpiece. We're breaking down crust, sauce, cheese, toppings, eating experience, history, and culture to finally answer which style reigns supreme. So grab your favorite slice, because we're about to dive into America's most delicious rivalry.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Let's start with the foundation, literally. New York pizza crust is a thing of beauty in its simplicity. Hand-tossed, thin, and perfectly balanced between crispy and chewy, it's designed for one thing: being folded in half and devoured on the go. The edges puff up just enough to create that perfect crust-to-sauce ratio, while the center stays thin enough that you're not just eating bread with toppings. The magic happens in those classic coal or gas deck ovens, cranked up to around 550 degrees. This creates a crust that's got just enough char on the bottom to give it structure, but flexible enough that you can fold it without it cracking like a stale cracker. It's engineering disguised as food. New York crust has that perfect chew, not too soft, not too hard. When you bite into it, there's a satisfying resistance that gives way to reveal the toppings. The crust doesn't compete with the pizza, it supports it, like a good wingman who knows when to step back and let the star shine. Places like DeFara, Lucali, and Roberta's have perfected this technique, creating crusts that are simultaneously crispy and chewy, with just enough char to add complexity without overpowering the toppings. Chicago deep dish takes the complete opposite approach, and honestly, it's bold as hell. This isn't just crust, it's architecture. The thick, buttery walls climb up the sides of a deep pan, creating what's essentially an edible bowl. This crust was born at Pizzeria Uno in 1943, and it changed everything about what pizza could be. The Chicago crust is more like a savory pastry than traditional pizza dough. It's rich, dense, and substantial enough to hold what amounts to a casserole's worth of ingredients. Where New York crust whispers, Chicago crust shouts. It's not trying to be subtle or elegant. It's trying to be unforgettable. But here's where Chicago runs into trouble. That thick crust can overwhelm everything else. Sometimes you're eating more bread than pizza, and when you're paying premium prices for cheese and sauce, that's not exactly ideal. The crust becomes the main event instead of the supporting player. Winner, New York. Because sometimes the best foundation is the one you don't notice. The winner is coming quickly, so please subscribe and like this video, because apparently that's how we measure self-worth these days. Round 2, sauce, cheese, and layer order, how they stack up. New York keeps it classic with the sauce-first approach. A thin layer of seasoned tomato sauce gets spread across the dough, followed by a moderate amount of low-moisture mozzarella. It's restraint at its finest. Just enough sauce to add flavor without making the crust soggy, just enough cheese to bind everything together without turning it into a dairy disaster. The sauce itself is typically a simple blend of crushed tomatoes, garlic, oregano, and maybe a touch of sugar to balance the acidity. It's bright, it's fresh, and it doesn't try to be the star of the show. The low-moisture mozzarella melts beautifully, creating those perfect cheese pulls without turning into a greasy mess. This layering system has been perfected over decades. The sauce provides moisture and flavor, the cheese adds richness and helps hold toppings in place, and everything bakes together in harmony. It's pizza democracy. Every ingredient gets a voice, but no one ingredient dominates the conversation. Legendary spots like Patsy's in East Harlem and Grimaldi's under the Brooklyn Bridge have been perfecting this balance for decades, proving that sometimes the simplest approach yields the most satisfying results. Chicago flips the script entirely with their reverse layering system, and it's either genius or madness, depending on your perspective. Cheese goes directly on the crust, followed by toppings, then a thick layer of chunky tomato sauce on top. It's like pizza, but make it backwards. This system exists for a practical reason. With all that depth, the cheese would burn if it were on top during the longer cooking time. So Chicago puts the sauce on top like a protective blanket, keeping everything underneath perfectly melted and gooey. The sauce itself is chunkier and more robust than New York's version, almost like a marinara that's been hitting the gym. It needs to be substantial enough to serve as the top layer and provide that final burst of flavor. Lou Malnati's is famous for their bright, chunky tomato sauce that perfectly balances the rich cheese below. But this creates a fundamental problem. You're essentially eating sauce soup on top of cheese casserole. The flavors don't meld together the way they do in New York style. Instead, you get distinct layers that hit your palate separately. Winner: New York, because pizza should be a symphony, not a layer cake. New York pizza follows the less is more philosophy, and it's beautiful in its restraint. Most classic New York slices feature just 1 or 2 toppings max: pepperoni, sausage, maybe some mushrooms if you're feeling fancy. This isn't because New Yorkers lack imagination, it's because they understand that great pizza is about balance. The thin crust can only support so much weight before it becomes a floppy mess. Too many toppings, and you've got a structural engineering problem on your hands. New York pizza respects the limits of physics while maximizing flavor impact. When New Yorkers do add toppings, they're typically high quality and applied with precision. The pepperoni cups up beautifully, creating little pools of spiced oil. The sausage is usually crumbled, not chunked, so it distributes evenly. Everything is designed to work together as a cohesive unit. This restraint also means each topping can actually be tasted. You're not playing Find the Pepperoni in a sea of competing flavors. It's pizza minimalism at its finest. Every element serves a purpose, and nothing is wasted. Chicago Deep Dish takes the go big or go home approach to toppings, and honestly, it's kind of impressive in its excess. We're talking about pizzas that can accommodate multiple layers of toppings, thick sausage patties, and enough vegetables to count as a salad. Lou Malnati's is famous for their sausage patty. Not crumbled sausage, but an actual thin layer of seasoned meat that covers the entire pizza like a delicious blanket. It's bold, it's indulgent, and it's definitely not messing around. The deep dish format can handle this abundance because of that structural crust and the reverse layering system. You can pile on the mushrooms, peppers, onions, and whatever else your heart desires without worrying about the whole thing collapsing. But this abundance comes with a cost. With so many competing flavors and textures, individual ingredients can get lost in the mix. Sometimes you're eating a very good casserole that happens to have a crust, rather than a pizza with distinct, complementary toppings. Winner: New York. Because sometimes the best party is the one where everyone can actually hear each other talk. New York pizza was designed for life on the go, and it shows. Those large triangular slices are perfectly engineered for the fold-and-eat technique that every New Yorker masters by age 5. You grab the crust, fold it in half lengthwise, and suddenly you've got a handheld meal that won't drip all over your shirt. The quick bake time means you can grab a slice and be back on the street in under 5 minutes. It's fast food that doesn't feel like fast food. You're getting quality ingredients and real craftsmanship just packaged in a format that respects your busy life. There's something almost meditative about eating a proper New York slice. The fold, the bite, the slight burn on your tongue because you couldn't wait for it to cool down. It's a ritual that connects you to millions of other New Yorkers who've done the exact same thing. The portability factor can't be overstated. You can eat New York pizza while walking, while standing on a subway platform, while having a conversation. It's social food that doesn't require you to stop your life to consume it. Chicago Deep Dish demands your full attention and a proper table setting. We're talking fork and knife territory here, people. This isn't grab-and-go food. It's a dining experience that requires commitment and probably a napkin tucked into your shirt. The thick, loaded slices are simply too heavy and too hot to eat by hand without risking serious injury to yourself and your clothing. You need to approach Chicago pizza like you're performing surgery, carefully, methodically, and with the right tools. This creates a completely different social dynamic. Chicago pizza is sit-down food that encourages conversation and lingering. You're not rushing through a Chicago deep dish. You're savoring it, discussing it, probably loosening your belt a notch or two. The trade-off is obvious. You get a more indulgent, restaurant-style experience, but you sacrifice the convenience and spontaneity that makes pizza such perfect everyday food. Winner, New York. Because pizza should fit into your life, not force you to rearrange your schedule around it. New York pizza has the deeper American roots, and it shows. Pizza first arrived in the United States through New York, brought by Italian immigrants in the late 1800s. Lombardi's opened in 1905 as America's first pizzeria, and they've been slinging pies ever since. The New York style evolved naturally from Neapolitan traditions, adapting to American tastes and ingredients. The larger slices, the coal ovens, the emphasis on portability, these weren't arbitrary choices. They were responses to the unique demands of New York City life, fast-paced, diverse, and always hungry. This evolution happened organically over decades. Each generation of pizza makers refined the technique, perfected the ratios, and passed down the knowledge. New York pizza isn't the result of one person's vision. It's the collective wisdom of thousands of pizza makers over more than a century. The New York style evolved naturally from Neapolitan traditions, adapting to American tastes and ingredients through legendary establishments like Lombardi's, Patsy's, and later innovators like L&B Spumoni Gardens with their Sicilian squares and Joe's Pizza, which became the gold standard for the classic New York slice. The cultural impact is undeniable. New York pizza became synonymous with the city itself, appearing in countless movies, TV shows, and songs. It's not just food. It's a symbol of New York's working-class authenticity and no-nonsense attitude. Chicago deep dish has a more dramatic origin story, born in 1943 at Pizzeria Uno, when Ike Sewell and Rick Ricardo decided to create something completely different. While historians debate the exact details, everyone agrees that deep dish was a deliberate invention, not an evolution. This wasn't Italian immigrants adapting their homeland recipes. This was American innovation at its boldest. Sewell and Ricardo looked at pizza and said, "What if we made it completely different?" The result was something that had never existed before: pizza as hearty, filling meal rather than a quick snack. The Chicago style spread through legendary establishments like Lou Malnati's, founded in 1971, and Giordano's, which introduced stuffed pizza in 1974. Each place added their own innovations while staying true to the deep dish concept. Chicago deep dish represents American culinary boldness, the willingness to take something traditional and completely reimagine it. It's the pizza equivalent of jazz music, distinctly American, unapologetically different, and impossible to ignore. Winner, New York. Because sometimes the original really is the best, and a century of refinement beats a moment of inspiration. New York pizza delivers what most people think of when they hear the word pizza. The first bite gives you that perfect balance of crispy, chewy crust, bright tomato sauce, and creamy melted cheese. Each element is distinct but harmonious, like a well-rehearsed band where everyone knows their part. The flavor profile is clean and straightforward. You taste the wheat in the crust, the tomatoes in the sauce, the milk in the cheese. There are no surprises, no hidden complexity. Just honest ingredients prepared with skill and served with confidence. The mouthfeel is satisfying without being overwhelming. You can eat multiple slices without feeling like you need a nap afterward. It's substantial enough to be filling, but light enough that you could theoretically eat it every day without hating yourself. New York pizza is also incredibly consistent. Whether you're at Joe's, Prince Street Pizza, or some random corner spot, you know what you're getting. The style has been standardized through decades of competition and refinement. Whether you're at Joe's, Prince Street Pizza, Bleecker Street Pizza, you know what you're getting. Chicago deep dish is an entirely different beast. Richer, more complex, and definitely more indulgent. The first bite is almost shocking in its intensity. You get the buttery crust, the molten cheese, the chunky sauce, and whatever toppings are hiding in there, all hitting your palate at once. The flavor is undeniably more luxurious. All that cheese and the buttery crust create a richness that New York pizza can't match. It's pizza as comfort food, designed to satisfy on a deep, almost primal level. But that richness comes with consequences. Chicago deep dish is heavy, like I need to unbutton my pants heavy. Most people can handle one slice, maybe two if they're really going for it. It's not everyday food, it's special occasion food. The complexity can also work against it. Sometimes there's so much going on that individual flavors get muddled. You're eating something delicious, but you're not always sure what exactly you're tasting. Winner, New York. Because the best pizza is the one you can eat again tomorrow without regret. After 6 rounds of intense competition, New York pizza takes the crown, winning 4 out of 6 categories. But before Chicago fans start throwing deep dish slices at their screens, let's be clear about what this means. New York pizza wins because it better fulfills what most people want from pizza most of the time. It's accessible, portable, consistently delicious, and doesn't require a major time commitment or digestive recovery period. It's pizza that fits into your life seamlessly. Chicago deep dish isn't worse pizza, it's different pizza. It's pizza as an event, pizza as indulgence, pizza as a statement. When you want to celebrate something special or treat yourself to a truly decadent meal, Chicago deep dish delivers in ways that New York pizza simply can't. The real winner here is America, because we're lucky enough to have both styles. New York pizza for Tuesday lunch, Chicago deep dish for Saturday night celebration. New York for the everyday magic, Chicago for the special moments. So there you have it. New York pizza wins the popular vote, but Chicago deep dish wins the Electoral College of Indulgence. Democracy is delicious, even when it's covered in cheese. Team New York or Team Chicago? Let us know in the comments which style has your heart. And while you're at it, tell us about your favorite local pizza spot that's doing something completely different from both of these classics.